Let's get that thing off. Okay, can you hear me? All right, the last time I was in front of you was touting the market tour about a year ago. And when I think back, it seems like that was a different planet, a different time. And actually it was. So much has changed over the past year, especially the pandemic. And what I guess how I got invited to be here is I was talking to David about a month ago about some of the coping skills that I came up with and the things that I've done, and to keep myself afloat. And because when this pandemic first set in, and in March when we went into lockdown, I didn't handle it very well. And I've never ever had issues with depression, anything like that. I've been always a happy-go-lucky kind of person. And so I was very ill prepared to have my world turned upside down pretty much overnight. And I guess being a native Minnesotan from the north part of the U.S., where we have bitter, cold winters, what I did is I hibernated. And I took over our guest room right away because it was small. It felt like a den. And I crawled into bed for 8 weeks. And yes, I came out for the obvious reasons, to eat and bodily functions and stuff like that. But for the most part, I couldn't deal with all the changes. And to me, it was like being in a self-induced coma. When you've got a traumatic brain injury or something, they put you out until your brain is kind of healed. And I just stayed there, and I would get out of bed and do things, but after an hour and a half, I was emotionally exhausted. I'd crawl back into bed. And that at a certain point, if you keep doing that, you're going to get bed sores, and you're definitely going to be bored. And I realized that this was it couldn't be a long-term strategy. So what I did is I started, again, tapping into what was always had been a positive personality and very upbeat. I said, every cloud has a silver lining. We've always been told that. But when I would look at the world, it was totally overcast. So I said, well, there's got to be then a lot of silver linings. And so that's kind of that became my approach. I said, I've got to get out of bed, and I've got to find reasons to stay motivated and interested, and to start having fun, even though we were restricted and didn't have all the freedoms that we'd had before. One of the things that really helped me is about the time that I was crawling out of bed, Michelle Obama had given an interview, and for me it was very important to have somebody as famous and well-known as she was to admit that she had been depressed. And her quote is, what she said is, let me just read it here. She said she was suffering from low-grade depression. And I said, wow, so am I. And then she added that managing emotional highs and lows required knowing yourself, which I thought I did know myself, and then doing the things that bring you joy. And so I decided that's what I needed to do. And so the first thing that, by this time in our house, I could tell that all three of us were going stir crazy. And I was reading about how, in the US, in the UK, in Europe, Australia, the animal shelters were running out of dogs and cats because all of a sudden everybody in the world seemed to need an emotional support animal. So I started looking and found this. This is Buddy. And we had 2 Boston Terriers already, and I thought there's no way we're going to be able to find another one. And but I went online, and lo and behold, there was a 4-month baby boy within 20 minutes of our house. And he had been reserved by people in Bangkok who canceled because of the pandemic. So I guess it was meant to be that this little guy came to live with us. And he's been an amazing distraction because he's like a hyperactive child. He's into everything, and he's chewed his way through. I like antiques and things. He's eaten all the corners off the coffee table and kind of worked his way through the house, which it's okay with me because it's going to give me some projects to work on in the future. But he's like a hyperactive child, half Boston Terrier and half Beaver. All right, is it better? Okay, all right. So that's Buddy. Getting a pet, it distracted us a lot, and we, he's the love of our life, and he's still a little monster, although he's past his teething phase. The second thing for me is I've always been a swimmer. Again, growing up in Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes, I grew up in the water more than out of it, and in the winter on the water with skates. And so I've always had a membership at one of the hotels here during the course of the 7 years that we've lived here. And because it always had to be a hotel that had a swimming pool more than a fitness center. Well, that got cut off for me. And so I couldn't believe this. I said to David one day, I said, I wonder if they have inflatable pools for adults. And I didn't believe that anything like that possibly could exist, but I searched on Lazada and I found this. And so I ordered it. A week later, this big box came and we set the thing up. And I was able to resume my swimming. And yes, I can't swim laps anymore. I swim circles, but I swim and I'm careful. I make sure that, if I do 30 rounds this way before I get out of the pool, I do 30 back the other way because I don't want to get out all wound up so I kind of unwind myself. But, I was getting exercise. I bought a couple of inflatable lounges, and now in the evening, often Dave and I'll float out there and have our cocktails, but it was an inexpensive and simple way to recreate something that was important to me in my previous life, which is the pre-pandemic life. In April, when the government decided that they were going to shut down alcohol sales, I panicked. Maybe the rest of you did too. I panicked. I read about, how, for example, again in the U.S., alcohol sales had gone through the roof once the pandemic set in. And we weren't stocked up for the long haul. And so I said, well, maybe I can learn how to make wine. When I was a little kid, my great aunts and uncles would make this horrible stuff that even as a child, we were required to drink it, taste it at least when we visit. And so I thought, well, you must be able to do something better than that. And so I ordered the equipment again through Lazada, and then I found there's a company in Bangkok, I think called Thai Brew or something. And they use Carry Express, and they can get the supplies up to me in a day. And so I read up on it, and then Jen and I together, we tried watermelon wine first. And I have to pretend that it tastes good because I made it. The thing that is actually good about it is it's got a very high alcohol content. So it doesn't take long, and you don't care what it tastes like anymore. But the next one I tried was mead, which is honey wine. It was very easy to make. In 2 weeks after I started, and these are 2 carboys of mead in the second fermentation process. Mead is fabulous, and if any of you want to learn how to make it, it works out to about 150 baht per bottle of wine. So it's actually, when you consider the cost of wine in Thailand, it's a pretty nice way to go. But it's delicious, and in fact, I'm not a natural in front of crowds like this, so I had a swig before I left the house this morning. But it's really pretty good stuff, and this week I'm going to be starting my next batch with 3 different types of honey, because each type of honey, depending on the kind of flowers, it will give a different flavor. So I figure that the mead made from coffee honey is something that I can drink first thing in the morning. Cabbage soup diet. I wanted to lose about 10 or 15 pounds, and I've been trying for the past 5 years, and with no luck. Even I try extreme dieting like the cabbage soup diet, which is an awful thing to try. Don't do it. If you like cabbage soup or cabbage, don't do this because you'll be put off from it for the rest of your life. But so I decided, well, I've got all this time now. So what I would do is I decided to try intermittent fasting, because what that does is it allows me to continue to eat what I like to eat, just within a restricted time. And I've in the past, 6-8 weeks, I've lost 9 pounds. So, and what that does is that's increased my self-confidence. I feel better about myself, and it's another one of those things that, at least when I look in the mirror now, it brings me joy. Excuse me? Later.
Order a bottle of scotch. Can you whip up one of those?
I can try. I have to order a still, though, to turn that honey wine into it. This, like a lot of people, maybe, so many people have always said, I want to write a novel. And I've been in that position, too. I've tried many times, and I stopped. Well, I had one started last year, and I decided, well, I've got all this time on my hands now. I'll start working on it. And I did. I'm not done with it yet, and maybe I'll never finish, but I'm at 152 pages now, which is about a third of the way through. So again, something creative that keeps my mind off what's happening all around the world and with the pandemic, and it gives me joy and a lot of happiness.
Is it a sexy novel?
It's, oh, no, not sexy like this, it's sexier. Yeah. This has already been done. I can do better than this. Money. We're saving money. I've tracked every baht we spend for the past 7 years, because when we retired, we were on a fixed income, and I figured I better find out where our money's going and where we need to cut back, etc. Our travel expenses since this pandemic, zero. The gas for our cars, we don't go out as much. It's dropped to half. We have no clothing budget because, I guess we do, yeah, we don't wear clothes right now, no. But we don't go out that much anymore. Our dining out budget, now it's coming back up a little bit now that we can get out, but that's dropped way down. So what we've been able to do is give back to the community, because we feel so fortunate to be here and not back in our home country where the pandemic is just going crazy. So we're helping feed elephants now. We're donating more to some of the families that we've helped, but we have the money to do it. So we've upped the amount of donations, because we're not spending that money on our own lifestyle issues now, because we just kind of cut back because of the pandemic. So it's a positive for the community, and we actually feel really good about being able to do that too. Taking an inventory of my friends and relationships. What I noticed is that as this pandemic really kind of set in, that I was in contact with people all over the world that were friends, and of course we'd moved away over the years, but it seemed more and more important to people to stay in touch. And so what I've noticed is that some of the people that maybe I hadn't been as good about staying in touch with were the ones that were making that extra effort to help build me up and stay in touch with me. And some of the people that I thought I could rely on I just did not step up to the plate. So I've kind of gone through and I've re-looked at what relationships are important to me and what they bring to me and what I can give back. And so it's been an opportunity to take an inventory of the relationships that are important to me and focus my energy on that, and then just let the other ones kind of be. So the people that are most meaningful to me actually get more of me now than they did pre-pandemic. And this is just me wearing my mask, and the reason I put that up there is one of the things I've noticed about mask wearing is that, when you put a mask on and it covers most of your face, a lot of the social signals that we're used to is somebody smiling, the facial expressions that we've learned to rely on when we interact people have been taken away by that mask. And so what I've noticed, but I like it, is, and yes, I miss the knowing whether somebody's smiling or not, but I'm making eye contact with people all the time, and they're making eye contact back, because it's our only real way of making facial communication. And you know, the eyes are the window to the soul. So what I'm finding is that when I'm going out and about, whether I'm shopping or just taking a walk or something, the people I meet, whether I ever see them again or not, I'm having a warm exchange of eye contact, which, you know, in a lot of our exchanges before, you know, we're sort of taught not to make eye contact with people. Now it's really one of the only ways that we can communicate non-verbally. And I think it's very rich. And I hate wearing my mask, but I do like going out and whatever I'm doing, whether running errands or whatever, I come back feeling warm and happy because I've made eye contact with everybody that I've come into contact with, and that's never happened before. And so I'm kind of wondering, when we get past this pandemic, if other people have had that same positive experience about eye contact, if maybe some of those old things that we were taught about not making eye contact with strangers will be gone, and we will have a kinder and gentler society because we're not afraid to look people in the eye and look into their soul. And with that, I will, the next slide is where you start your little project at each table to find out and talk with each other to find out what are the things that you did to cope when your worlds were turned upside down. And then I think, David, you said they're going to submit one. Is that correct?
One per table.
And I'll just leave by saying there will someday be another market tour. We had something all set up for May, and then it just became impossible to do it, but we'll get out there and do it again. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo. Okay, now to your homework. We'd really like for you. Oh, am I in the right place? Okay, good. I'm ready for my close-up. Oh. Okay, so you've got everybody has a card, right? Okay, a couple of you have already filled out the card because you thought whatever. Don't worry about it. You can use the other side. This is a time when please discuss among yourselves what some of your coping strategies are, or some ones you wished you'd used. No matter. Discuss among yourselves quickly, and then decide as a table which one is the most helpful, useful, innovative, clever, resoundingly, astonishingly useful, and have someone write it legibly on the card. We'll collect the cards, and these will be published in our multi-thousand circulation newsletter very soon. So you'll be helping lots of people with this as well. Ready? Go for it.